Good morning, Chairman Barry, members of the Hong Kong Association Worldwide. I won't even try to say it in 23 different languages. Good morning. I can't. But it's encouraging to have almost 400 of you coming from 23 countries. And it's exciting to see how the Federation of Hong Kong Association has grown over the past 20 years. I remember when I was with the TDC first time, that was over 20 years ago, I was personally responsible for setting up Hong Kong Association in various cities. And look at it now, almost 10,000 strong. I call this the Hong Kong family. So I would say welcome home members of the Hong Kong Association. Now, it's great to see many of you back here, looking confident and happy. You must have survived the financial crisis very well. And I'm also delighted to see that you're coming back in increasing numbers over the past 3 years that I was chairman. I'm sure you're not just coming back to see me. You're coming back to update yourself on Hong Kong and China. You're also coming back to network with business contacts, not only in Hong Kong, but certainly in China and Southeast Asia. So I hope you make the most of your time here to talk to and discuss opportunities with not just the TDC staff, but also your Hong Kong counterparts and the various VIP speakers that we arrange for you for the next couple of days. I remember I keep promising that I'll try to visit as many of your cities as possible. And I'm afraid that my report card is still fairly poor. But I will make a greater effort in the years to come. And I notice whenever I say I'll make an effort to visit overseas, the headquarters staff show a sign of relief and happiness on their face. I wonder why. So this is 1 year after the financial crisis. And where are we? First of all, I think we noticed that the world is pulling out of recession, although fairly slowly. Even the US has registered positive growth in the last quarter. And in Europe, Germany and France is leading the way out of the recession. Of course, the bright spot is China. China still registered, I think this year, quite confidently, 8.5% or even 9% economic growth. But having said that, we must remember that the major economies are still on life support because the rescue packages are still very much in place. So this recovery has got to be seen in the light of the recovery packages still in place and still working. And of course, low interest rate is the norm all over the developing countries. So there are risks still present in the current economic situation. We just noticed that Dubai has got into a bit of trouble. But apart from that, I think in most of the major economies, unemployment is still a serious problem. The US, Europe, in general, 10% unemployment. And much of that is not even seasonal, it's structural. The other structural change, of course, is that the spending habits of the developed countries has changed. Consumer spending has shrunk in the West, so that has a major impact on other economies such as the Asian economies, which used to depend a lot on manufacturing for exports. We have now to shift our emphasis to domestic markets. And in Hong Kong, of course, our focus is now on domestic market in China. The second risk I can think of is that because of the easy money situation and the low interest rate, there is a risk of an asset inflation, particularly here in Asia. I can quote you an example, for instance, in Hong Kong, property prices. In China, the property prices has risen significantly. And many of you must have heard that one of the most expensive flats in mid-levels recently fetched a record price of 10,000 US dollars per square foot. So can this sort of price level be sustained over the next 18, 24 months? Or are we building up another bubble? And some economists are saying, or are warning, that another small bubble is in the making. And if that is true, we may have a double dip. In other words, the world will be destined for another recession. I hope that is not true. Now, all that is making it complicated for governments to contemplate exiting from the rescue packages. On the one hand, if they pull the rescue packages, if they raise interest rates, they may prick the bubble immediately. On the other hand, if they don't, and if they continue with the easy money policy, the bubble will grow bigger. So these are some of the problems alive with the current state of the economic recovery that seems to be ongoing in the world. What about Hong Kong? The good news is that, in general, Hong Kong's financial sector appears to be very stable. There's no problem with banks, no major bad loan situation. Certainly no bank or no financial institution has collapsed. So on the whole, we are very confident that the banking sector, the financial sector, will go forward as a very solid and stable sector. Then, of course, China has benefited Hong Kong very significantly because of their phenomenal economic growth that maintains at 8% and above throughout the past 10, 15 years. And of course, there is, from the central government of China, also a rescue package of 4 trillion yuan that trickles through the economy, and a lot of that has come to various sectors in China, and the benefit of that also has come to some parts of the Hong Kong economy. But specifically, China has given many beneficial or even prejudicial treatments to Hong Kong, such as CEPA. Many of you may have heard of this term, which is, I think, in layman's terms, beneficial conditions for trading and investment in China for particularly Hong Kong companies. Then, of course, the freedom traveler policy, which means that individuals from China can come to Hong Kong quite freely, has also benefited tremendously the retail sector, also the tourism sector of the Hong Kong economy. The immigration by investment policy, which means that anybody who has made investment of $6 million in Hong Kong can be entitled to right to stay, eventually leading to a permanent status in Hong Kong, also has tremendous impact on the investment scene in Hong Kong, particularly helping, for instance, the property sector. Then, of course, I talk about the domestic market in China. I'll have more to say on that later. The domestic market in China has certainly taken off and has certainly made up some of the gap left by the shortfall of exports to the Western markets. Finally, Hong Kong is, for the past decade, used as the platform for many Chinese companies, Chinese mainland companies, to go outside. Many of them has become listed companies in Hong Kong. You notice that hundreds of mainland companies have got public listed status in Hong Kong. And many of them use Hong Kong as the platform to go to the rest of the world for their merger acquisition as well as for their exports. So Hong Kong benefits from this movement of what China calls the going out of Chinese companies. So Hong Kong overall is doing well, but still there are risks, and I'd like to point out some of those risks. The asset bubble I just mentioned is also relevant to Hong Kong. Easy money, low interest rate is prevalent also in Hong Kong. Protectionism is something that we have to watch out for. In Western markets, the US and certain parts of Europe, there is already an outcry, there's already a demand for protectionism against Chinese products, against Hong Kong products. So that is also one risk that we are on guard against. And thirdly, allied to the first point, that the consumer habits, the spending habits of the West has changed. How can Hong Kong industries adjust to this new pattern of producing for a domestic China market instead of producing for the Western markets? Mind you, that's a major, major adjustment. Producing for exports would mean that you're making goods for a foreign buyer in bulk, in terms of hundreds of dozens. And also, you don't have to have your own brand name, your own design. You're making for a foreign design. But if you produce for domestic China market, you have to establish your own brand name. You have to create your own design. You're selling, instead of by the tens of thousands, you're selling for, let's say, 3 pieces of this, 5 pieces of that. So it's a whole different culture. And I can tell you that the TDC is also helping Hong Kong manufacturers, apart from the marketing in the domestic market in China, also in terms of establishing their brand name and creating their own design to suit the domestic market in China. So what are we doing in the TDC? We have identified the various opportunities and we have formulated different strategies. The first strategy is that we want to secure Hong Kong as the premier business hub for mainland companies as well as for overseas companies. Under this heading, the TDC is making efforts to maintain its leadership position in trade fairs in Hong Kong. Many of you know that having built this massive convention exhibition center over the past 20 years, we have developed many of Hong Kong's major trade shows into some of the world's biggest trade shows that covers a lot of industries, like garments, toys, electronics, watches, jewelry, what have you. On a yearly basis, we organize almost 40 major trade shows. And as I say, many of them are already the biggest in Asia, if not the world. And these are the platform for businessmen from China, from Hong Kong, from overseas to meet, orders placed, and manufacturing can begin. So it's a good platform. It's a position that TDC will make every effort to maintain its leadership in the years to come. Secondly, perhaps not so well known, but I think I would encourage many of you to find out while you're in Hong Kong, is that we have a very sophisticated e-marketplace developed over the years. Through the internet, we have stored data of hundreds of thousands of buyers and tens of thousands of suppliers. And over the internet, over the e-marketplace, trade matching will be done. Buyers will find suppliers and suppliers will find buyers. Every day there's over 1 million hits on our website, and it's been rated one of the most effective, most successful e-marketplace in the world. So I would encourage you to find out this virtual marketplace apart from the trade fairs that we're organizing. And thirdly, under this heading, we're also helping many mainland Chinese companies to come to Hong Kong, establish themselves in Hong Kong, get themselves listed in Hong Kong, and also using Hong Kong as a springboard to overseas markets. The second strategy that we are pushing is to deepen the Hong Kong companies' push into the domestic market in China. As I say, the focus is now slightly shifted from Western markets to the domestic market in China. So we're making great efforts in this direction. You might have heard that we have organized many successful B2C retail trade fairs in various cities in China. Recently, we had a very successful one in the city of Chongqing. Over 200,000 visitors to the fair. And all of the participants, manufacturers from Hong Kong and manufacturers with factories in China, have done marvelous broadening business in that trade fair. And over the next year, we intend to do more of this type of activity, which is not only successful in the fair itself, but will lead the way for manufacturers and traders to establish themselves in the China market. Because many of them, and I'm sure many of you will be interested as well, how do you establish yourself? How do you introduce your own company? How do you introduce your own brands in the massive China market? And these B2C fairs in China would be a very, very good beachhead for these companies to make the first contact. Secondly, also to zero in on the China market, we are translating many of our data bank, many of our e-marketplace data into the Chinese language to make it easy for Chinese traders, Chinese manufacturers. And I may tell you that we are also looking at opportunities of joint venturing with some of the Chinese e-marketplace operators to make our capabilities even more accessible to the users. Then there is a tremendous effort on the part of the TDC to integrate with the economic entities in the Pearl River Delta. And all this is going on to make sure that Hong Kong and the Pearl River Delta will eventually merge into one big economic entity. While all this is going on, Hong Kong is still held as the lifestyle trendsetter for China. So there is still significant attraction for Hong Kong brands, Hong Kong designs, or companies located in Hong Kong doing business in China, holding Hong Kong up as a lifestyle trendsetter for mainland consumers. The third strategy that we embark on is, as always, to assist the small and medium enterprises. Because small and medium enterprises, whether in Hong Kong or overseas, will be our major customers. And to do this, apart from China, we're taking the SMEs to most of the overseas markets, not just the traditional markets, but also the new and emerging markets in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, and more recently in Indonesia and in Turkey. The last two places, we intend to set up some permanent TDC representation in the year to come. Taiwan is a very interesting market for the SMEs. As you know, we have already established a TDC office in Taipei. That office, since its establishment, has become very busy in terms of encouraging two-way flow of business and of official visits. So hopefully Taiwan will become a new frontier for SMEs in the years to come. And to encourage further SMEs to develop the business and develop new markets, over the years, TDC has organized SME Business Day and more recently entrepreneurial seminars to educate budding entrepreneurs how to set up their business. Also, in these seminars, we invite the professionals to come, the accountants, the bankers, to help people set up their own business. So that is one focus we will not relent on. That is one focus that will continue to make tremendous effort to encourage SMEs to develop their business. The fourth strategy is that we will have a strong focus on the service industries. You know, Hong Kong has, over the years, shifted its emphasis several times. And the most recent change is that there is now a preponderance of service industries over manufacturing. In fact, the economy in Hong Kong is now more than 90% service. So TDC has got to keep up with the times and place more emphasis on services. So over the recent years, we have made a lot of efforts to assist such industries as financial industries, the creative industries, particularly filmmaking. And in this connection, I must declare my interest. I'm also the chairman of the Film Development Council. Our fund has been set up to help small producers or new directors to get into production of movies. And again, the recent development is that the market in China has certainly opened up significantly for Hong Kong movies, particularly co-production with China. Many of you have seen some of the successful examples of co-production. I hate to mention names, but many of you have seen the recent Hong Kong films that are co-produced in China, and many of them have become top box office hits in the China market. So TDC has, as you know, organized on a yearly basis the Film Mart, which has become the third largest film, video, television, music market in the world, next only to Cannes and Hollywood. This is, again, something that we're quite proud of. Apart from our creative industries, we're also helping the professional services, the accountants, the architects, the lawyers to get into various new markets, the Middle East, China, and more recently, government has declared that they will encourage 6 new industries to develop, including creative industries, including education, medical, standard and testing. And again, TDC is making an effort in all of these areas to make sure that the service industry in Hong Kong will develop as fast, if not faster, than the manufacturing industries. So to conclude, I'd like to say the Hong Kong economy is holding up well, and we're looking at great opportunities in China and elsewhere. TDC, as the pathfinder and the business facilitator, has very clear ideas and concrete programs on where to go and what to do. And I've just listed out the strategies that we have formulated. So I encourage you to make use of your time here, not only to update yourself on the situation, but also to prepare yourself to participate in all these activities of TDC over the next year, which would benefit, I think, the business you have at home. And of course, apart from visiting Hong Kong once a year or doing your business visit, I would even encourage you to consider moving part of your business to Hong Kong. And why not? 4,600 companies have set up their headquarters in Hong Kong over the past decade. And you must have heard that recently HSBC will move its chief executive, Mr. Mike Jogan, back to Hong Kong. And when I met Mike, he told me Hong Kong to him is the most exciting place in the world today for business and for investment. And this is something that all of you should think about. Last but not least, whilst busy attending sessions and listening to speeches, I hope you also find time to enjoy Hong Kong, enjoy the sights and sounds of Hong Kong. For activities before 7 o'clock, ask me. For activities after 7 o'clock, ask Chris Jackson here. Thank you very much.